The first thing I noticed was the smell. Not sweat, not the usual gym detergent on her clothes. Something else, sharp, chemical, oddly sweet. Like men's cologne diluted with a cold wind outside. The moment she walked in through the door, hood pulled low, cheeks flushed red from wind to air, her breath hitching as if she'd sprinted home instead of driven, something in my chest locked. "Hey," Lena said, forcing a smile that didn't fit her face. "Why are you standing there like that?" She was right. I was standing strangely. Too stiff. Too still. Like my muscles had sensed something before my mind caught up. Her duffel bag thudded to the floor, louder than it should have. She flinched at the sound. I stared at her, at the way she kept her eyes down, at the tremor in her hand as she wiped hair from her forehead, at the flush spreading oddly across her neck, not work-hate red, more like embarrassment, more like guilt. Then I saw it, a bruise, small, purple, half hidden near her collarbone, like a fingerprint. My mouth dried instantly. She froze when she saw me looking at it. Her fingers raced to zip her jacket higher. And that was when the word slipped out of me, quiet, brittle, and unstoppable. How long has this been going on? Her entire body went motionless, like someone had hit pause, like her soul had stepped out of her skin. Her gym bag, still partly open, toppled on its side, and a water bottle rolled out, clicking against the tiles. The small sound echoed through the living room like a gunshot. What?" she whispered. Her voice cracked. Lena never cracked. "You heard me," I murmured. I didn't shout. I didn't accuse. But something in my tone, maybe the calm or the hollowness, made her take a step back. The wolves stopped her. She had nowhere else to retreat. Her chest rose and fell too fast, like she'd been caught mid-confession. Her eyes darted around the room, anywhere but at me. The heater hummed softly. A car honked somewhere outside. Our clock ticked too loudly on the wall. Tiny normal things suddenly felt obscene. She swallowed hard, her throat bobbing. Why? Why would you say something like that? Because the truth was crawling under my skin. Because the last 2 weeks had felt wrong. Because she had changed, subtly, quietly, but unmistakably. But I didn't say any of that. Instead, I said, "Take off your jacket." Her head snapped up. "What?" "No." "Why?" "Take it off." Her lips parted in shock. Her eyes shimmered, not with tears yet, but with something else. Fear? Guilt? Panic? All of them? "Michael," she whispered, shaking her head. "Please don't do this." "Lena," I said softly, "take it off." For a long moment, she didn't move. She just stared at me, like she was hoping I'd suddenly laugh and say it was a joke, like this was all a big misunderstanding, like she could still manipulate the situation back into her hands. But she couldn't. Slowly, as if peeling off her own skin, she unzipped her jacket. The bruise near her collarbone, dark and fresh, was clearer now, and below it, her sports bra strap was slightly twisted, the kind of thing that didn't happen during a normal workout. My heart felt like it cracked straight down the middle. She tugged the jacket back up instinctively, covering herself. "It's nothing. It's just an accident at the gym. Someone bumped into me." My jaw tensed. "Someone touched your collarbone with enough pressure to leave a perfect thumbprint." She inhaled sharply, like I'd stabbed her with my words. I wasn't shouting. I wasn't crying. I wasn't doing any of the dramatic things a furious husband is supposed to do. Maybe that scared her more. "Michael, please," she murmured. "Tell me the truth," I said. Her lips trembled. Her eyes filled instantly, tears threatening to fall. She hugged herself like she was trying to hold her ribs together. "I can't," she choked. Those 2 words hit me harder than anything else she could have said. "I can't. Not I didn't. Not it's not what you think. Not you're imagining things. Just, I can't." Her tears fell silently, running down her face and dripping onto the floor in soft, terrible taps. "Lena," I said quietly, "look at me." She squeezed her eyes shut. "Look at me." When she finally raised her gaze, her face was streaked with tears, and something in her expression shattered whatever hope I was desperately clinging to. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. My knees almost gave out. In that moment, everything inside me collapsed. The years, the memories, the trust we'd built. The mornings we woke up laughing. The nights we fell asleep holding each other. The promises we'd made when no one else was watching. All of it felt suddenly, violently hollow. How long? I asked again. She covered her mouth with a trembling hand, sobbing silently behind it. How long? Lena? I don't know, she said through her fingers. I don't know anymore. What do you mean? You don't know? I asked, my voice cracking at the edges. Her shoulders shook. She slid down the wall until she was sitting on the floor, knees pulled to her chest like a child. She was breaking, and part of me hated that I still cared. I didn't mean for this to happen, she cried. I swear to you, I didn't. Her words hit me like tiny knives, each one sharper than the last. And yet it happened, I said. She nodded helplessly, sobbing. The silence between us stretched out, heavy, suffocating. It felt like the walls were closing in. I sat down on the opposite side of the room, my back against the sofa, because my legs couldn't hold me anymore. I ran my hands through my hair, squeezing the back of my neck, trying to keep my chest from collapsing. Lena, I asked, voice raw, is there someone else? She froze again. Her silence answered for her. I felt something deep inside me tear open, slow, brutal, irreversible. Tell me who. Her sobbing intensified. Please don't make me. Tell me, I repeated. It'll ruin everything, she whispered. I laughed, broken, humorless. Lena, it's already ruined. She pressed her forehead to her knees, her voice barely audible. I never wanted to hurt you. But you did, I said quietly. The heater clicked off, plunging the room into a cold, uncanny stillness. And then she whispered a name I never expected, a name that made every muscle in my body go rigid, a name that turned my blood to ice, a name that changed everything I thought I knew. She whispered it so quietly I almost thought I imagined it, but I didn't. The name slid into the air like a blade, thin, cold, cutting everything it touched. Evan. For a moment, my mind went blank, not confused, not shocked, just blank, like my brain refused to process the sound. Who? I finally asked, even though deep down, I already knew. She didn't lift her head. Her forehead stayed pressed to her knees, her fingers gripping her hair so tightly her knuckles turned white. Michael, she sobbed, please. Who is he? I repeated, sharper now. Say it again. She flinched. Her voice cracked when she spoke. Evan, from the gym. And there it was. A clear picture snapped into place. Tall, dark hair. The trainer who always seemed too friendly. The guy who lingered when he spotted her at the weight rack. The one who used to nod at me with a smile that now felt mocking. The one she'd dismiss whenever I mentioned him. He's just a trainer, she used to say. He's harmless. Harmless. I felt a hollow laugh claw its way up my throat. So you've been sleeping with your trainer. Her breath caught. I didn't say that. But it's what you meant. She covered her face again, shoulders shaking. Michael, it wasn't supposed to happen. I wasn't looking for anything. I swear. I stared at her, every emotion slamming into me at once. Rage, heartbreak, disbelief, humiliation. My chest felt too tight, like my ribs were bending inward. How long? I asked again. Has it been going on? She didn't answer. Lena. She squeezed her eyes shut, tears spilling out. Her voice came out as a whisper strangled by guilt. 4 months. 4 months. My vision blurred for a moment, like the world tilted sideways. I had to steady myself against the sofa just to stay upright. 4 months. While we celebrated our anniversary. While we took that weekend trip to the lake. While she held my hand at night and kissed me good morning. While she told me she loved me. 4 months. I felt my heart being cleaved open in real time. Why? I asked. My voice sounded foreign. What did he give you that I didn't? Her head jerked up, eyes wide with horror. No, Michael, it's not like that. You didn't do anything wrong. Then explain it to me. My tone sharpened. Explain how my wife ends up with a bruise on her collarbone from another man. She curled inward, shaking. I don't know. I can't explain it. I was lonely, I guess. I stared at her like she'd spoken another language completely. Lonely. She nodded helplessly. You've been working so much. You're exhausted, stressed, barely sleeping. You come home drained. I didn't want to add to your burden. So you added this instead? I asked, my laugh sharp and painful. She winced. I should have talked to you, she whispered. I should have told you I felt disconnected. But I didn't. I kept pushing it down and pretending I was okay. And then one day, he listened. That's all it was at first. Talking. Feeling seen. Feeling wanted. The last word stabbed deeper than all the rest. Wanted. I could feel something unraveling inside me. Something primal. Painful. The kind of ache you can't punch or cry out of your system. So this was emotional, I said flatly. Not just physical. She nodded miserably. It started that way. And then turned physical, I said. She hesitated, only for half a second. But it was enough. Yes, she whispered. I shut my eyes, my jaw clenched so tight it ached. The room felt too small, too airless, like grief was oxygen and I was drowning in it. Where? I asked suddenly. She blinked. What? Where did it happen? My voice was low, controlled. Here? In our home. No, she said quickly, shaking her head frantically. Never here. I would never. But you did everywhere else. I cut in. The gym? His place? Your car. She burst into tears again. Michael, please stop, please. You owe me the truth, I snapped. All of it. She doubled over as if the words physically hit her. Mostly at his apartment, she whispered behind her hands. Sometimes in his office at the gym. And today? I asked. A pause. Too long. Her breath caught. Today was an accident, she murmured, voice breaking. We were talking after class and it got emotional. Things happened. And when I saw the bruise, I panicked because I knew you'd notice. I knew, she swallowed a sob. I knew I couldn't lie to you anymore. So the bruise, I said slowly, is from today. She nodded, shaking uncontrollably. My chest caved inward. I felt sick, physically sick. She had come home from him, from his hands, from his mouth, from his bed. To me, I covered my face with both hands. For a long moment, I couldn't breathe. My lungs refused to expand. Michael, she cried, crawling a little closer but stopping when I flinched back. I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. I didn't. I wasn't trying to replace you. I was just lost. I lowered my hands. My vision was blurred from tears I didn't remember letting fall. My voice was barely more than a whisper. Did you ever think about me? Even once? When you were with him? Her lips parted, but no sound came out. More tears slid down her cheeks, dripping onto her gym leggings. Please, she whispered. Please don't look at me like that. Like what? Like I'm a stranger. I shook my head slowly. You are a stranger. She let out a broken sound, somewhere between a cry and a gasp, and covered her face. I stood up. I couldn't sit anymore. The room felt like it was collapsing around me. She looked up at me with terror in her eyes. Where are you going? I need air, I said. No, please don't leave, she pleaded, scrambling to her feet. We have to talk about this. We can fix this. We can. Can you fix 4 months of lies? I asked quietly. Can you fix the way I feel every time I picture his hands on you? Can you fix the fact that you looked me in the eyes and pretended everything was fine? She covered her mouth, shaking violently. I was going to end it, she whispered. I swear I was. I just didn't know how. Or maybe you didn't want to, I said. She froze, and I saw it, the tiny flicker in her expression. Regret, shame, but not denial. She didn't want to stop. Not until today. Not until she got caught. Not until the bruise gave her away. I exhaled, a tremor running through me. Then I asked the one question that would change the course of everything. A question I didn't even know I'd been terrified to ask. A question she clearly didn't expect. Are you in love with him? The silence afterward was the loudest sound I had ever heard. She didn't answer. She didn't have to. Her silence was the answer. My world split open. Her silence wasn't passive. It was heavy, loaded, full of meaning she didn't dare say out loud. If she'd shouted, no. If she'd denied everything. If she'd even whispered something weak and fragile like, of course not. I might have had something to hold on to. But she didn't. She just stood there, trembling, eyes wide and wet, lips parted but frozen. And in that stillness, the truth bled out between us. She wasn't refusing to answer. She couldn't answer. And I knew exactly what that meant. I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. My voice, my entire sense of self, felt like it had been knocked out of me. Michael, she whispered, stepping forward cautiously, like approaching a wounded animal. I stepped back. Her breath hitched. It's not what you think, she said desperately. It's complicated. Complicated. I repeated, a bitter laugh scraping out of me. You're cheating on your husband. You come home with his fingerprints on your skin. You say you feel disconnected from me, and you can't even say you don't love him. That's not complicated. Lena, that's betrayal. She shook her head hard. I don't love him. I swear to you, I don't. Then say it, I said, voice low and trembling. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again, but nothing came out, and that was worse than any confession could have been. I stared at her. My pulse thudded in my ears. The room felt like it had shifted into some alternate version of my life where none of the rules made sense, where my wife was crying because she'd broken something we'd spent years building together. What do you feel for him? I asked, stepping toward her. Tell me, give me something. Anything that explains how we ended up here. She wiped her face with trembling hands, mascara smudging under her eyes. I don't know what it is, she said. It's not love. I don't want a future with him. I don't want him instead of you. Then what? I asked sharply. Do you want? She froze again. I don't know, she whispered. I turned away, running both hands down my face, feeling the weight of her answer settle in my bones. She didn't know. Not about him. Not about me. Not about our marriage. Not about herself. You were supposed to be my person, I said quietly. The one I never had to doubt. I still am, she whispered. No, I said, turning back to her. No, you're not. She pressed her hand to her mouth to muffle a sob. For a long, suffocating moment, neither of us spoke. The house was too quiet. The clock ticked too loudly. Her breathing was too ragged. My heartbeat felt too slow, too heavy. Finally, she whispered, I didn't fall in love with him. I fell out of love with myself. I blinked. What? She looked down, tears dripping off her chin. I felt invisible, like I wasn't enough for you anymore. Like the only version of me that mattered was the one who didn't bother you, didn't burden you, didn't add to your stress. And then someone saw me. Someone made me feel alive again, wanted, interesting. And I followed that feeling instead of dealing with the emptiness. I swallowed hard, because part of me recognized pieces of what she was saying, but that didn't make it hurt any less. And you didn't talk to me, I said. I was afraid, she whispered. Of me? Of losing you. You lost me anyway. She covered her face with both hands again, sobbing harder. I felt like I was disintegrating from the inside, like some part of me was being scraped out, leaving only a hollow ache behind. I walked past her to the window and stared out at the street. Snow had begun to fall, soft flakes drifting down lazily, painting the world white, peaceful, innocent, the opposite of everything inside this house. Inside me. Tell me something, I said without turning around. If I hadn't asked you today, if I hadn't seen the bruise, were you ever going to tell me? She didn't answer. My hand curled into a fist against the windowsill. Lena, I said again, would you have told me? Her voice came out so quiet I almost didn't hear it. No, That single-syllable fractured whatever pieces of my heart were still intact. I turned slowly, looking at her, my wife, the woman I planned a life with, the woman who had promised me honesty, loyalty, partnership. She couldn't even meet my eyes. She was staring at the floor, shaking as if her own truth disgusted her. And maybe it did, but it disgusted me more. "So you were going to keep living like this," I said, my voice trembling with restrained fury. "Coming home to me while being with him, sleeping in our bed after being in his, hugging me with the same arms you wrapped around him." She sobbed violently, stumbling forward a step. "No, Michael, I hate myself for what I did. I swear I do. I didn't know how to stop without breaking everything." "You broke everything anyway," I said. She covered her face again. I felt something inside me finally snap, not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly and decisively, like the final thread of a fraying rope finally giving way. I walked toward the hallway. She panicked instantly. "Where are you going?" she cried, stumbling after me. "Please, don't walk away. We need to talk. We need to figure this out." I stopped at the threshold of our bedroom. I didn't go in. I didn't look at the bed. I couldn't. "I'm not walking away," I said. "I'm trying not to say something I can't take back." She reached for my arm, instinctively, desperately, but I pulled away. The way her face fell almost made me feel pity. Almost. "I love you," she whispered, voice breaking. "I still love you, Michael." I closed my eyes. Then why wasn't I enough? I whispered back. She let out a sound, painful, raw, helpless. "I don't know," she cried. "I don't know. I'm broken. I've been broken for a long time, and I pretended I wasn't." Her confession should have softened me. It didn't, because broken or not, she broke us too. I opened my eyes and stepped away from her, putting distance between our bodies, our breaths, our everything. She stared at me like her world was ending. Maybe it was. Mine already had. "Lena," I said softly, "I need you to answer one last question." She shook her head quickly, like she couldn't take any more. But I had to know. I had to rip the last bandage off. I looked directly into her swollen, tear-filled eyes and asked, "Are you still seeing him?" Her reaction told me everything before her words did. The hesitation, the panic, the flicker of guilt. Then, "Yes." The floor disappeared beneath me. Yes. The word didn't just break me. It hollowed me out. It was soft, barely spoken. But it detonated in my chest like a silent explosion, the kind that destroys without sound, without smoke, without leaving anything recognizable behind. I stared at her, not blinking, not breathing, not moving, just staring. Because suddenly I couldn't tell if the woman standing in front of me was my wife or a ghost wearing her skin. "How recently?" I asked, my voice disturbingly calm. She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "Michael, please." "How? Recently?" She pressed her lips together, shaking harder. "Today," she whispered. I closed my eyes, swallowing the nausea rising in my throat. "Today," I repeated, as in, right before you came home to me. She swallowed a sob. It wasn't planned. I was going to end it. I swear I was. But he asked to talk, and things got emotional. And you ended up in his arms," I said. "Again." Her face crumpled. "I'm not trying to hurt you." "But you are," I said. "Every single time you went to him, you hurt me. You just didn't feel it yet." She dropped to her knees. Literally, like her legs couldn't hold the weight of her guilt anymore. "Michael, I'm begging you," she cried, hand clutching at her chest. "Please don't leave me. Please. I know I messed up. God, I know I ruined everything. But I can fix it. I'll delete his number. I'll quit the gym. I'll go to therapy. I'll do anything you want. Just, please don't walk out." I stared down at her, at the woman who had once been my world, now kneeling on our hardwood floor, sobbing like she was shattered, and I felt nothing, not sympathy, not rage, not even satisfaction, just a bone-deep emptiness. "You didn't just cheat," I said quietly. You lied. 4 months. You lived 2 lives. You touched me with hands that touched someone else. You kissed me with a mouth that kissed him. You slept next to me while texting him. She covered her face, her sobs turning into small gasps. I know. I hate myself for it. You should, I said. She froze. It wasn't cruelty. It was truth. Her shoulders shook violently as she cried into her palms. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. Why let it get this foul? I was scared, she whispered. Of what? That you'd leave. I let out a hollow laugh. And your solution to that fear was to cheat on me. No, she cried. My solution was to run from everything I didn't want to face, including myself. I turned away, not because I couldn't look at her, but because if I kept looking, I would break into a version of myself I would never forgive. She scrambled to her feet and followed me a few steps into the hallway. Michael, please, listen to me. I held up a hand. She stopped like she'd hit a wall. What now? I asked quietly. Is he expecting you tomorrow? Do you have plans? She flinched like I'd slapped her. No. I told him today that it was over, she whispered. He just didn't take it well. I lifted one eyebrow. Didn't take it well. She nodded weakly. He said I was being manipulated by guilt, that you didn't deserve me, that he cared about me more than you ever did. I blinked. A new, darker anger stirred in me. He said that. She nodded again, crying harder. And you believed him, I said, but it wasn't a question, it was a realization. She didn't deny it. Lightning crackled silently in the space between us. The betrayal suddenly felt deeper, twisted, humiliating. Like this wasn't just cheating, it was emotional poisoning. I stepped closer. Did you defend me? I asked. She froze. Her eyes darted away. And that silence, that horrible, telling silence, was the real betrayal. You didn't, I said, my voice low. She shook her head frantically. It wasn't like that. I didn't agree with him. I just. But you didn't defend me. She wiped her eyes desperately. I didn't know what to say. I was overwhelmed. I was being validated. I cut in. He said what you wanted to hear. Her lips trembled. That's not true. It is. Her face twisted with guilt. She didn't argue again. And now, I asked, does he know you told me? She swallowed hard. No. I let out a slow, bitter breath. So right now, I said, as we're standing here in our home, crying over our marriage, he thinks you're still his. She let out a strangled sob. No, that's not true. Michael, please believe me. I was going to end it for real tonight. I swear. You already said you lied. I reminded her. Why should I believe anything now? She covered her mouth, shaking violently, leaning against the wall like she might collapse again. What do you want me to do? She whispered through tears. Tell me. I'll do anything. I'll change my number. Block him. Quit everything. I'll burn the world down if it means we can fix this. There's no fixing what you destroyed, I said. Her breath punched out of her. She grabbed the doorframe to stay upright. Michael, please, don't say that, please. You said you weren't in love with him, I said. And maybe that's true, but you weren't in love with me either. Not the way you used to be. That's not true, she cried. Then why wasn't I enough? She opened her mouth to answer, and then stopped, because she didn't know, because she couldn't explain, because the truth was messy and ugly and human and horrible. She had taken the easy wrong over the hard right, and she had lost herself in the process. I felt something in me quiet. Not anger, not pain, just clarity. We can't keep going, I said. She slid down the wall to the floor again, sobbing into her hands. No, please, Michael, I can't lose you. I can't. I walked to the bedroom door again. Where are you going? She cried. I looked at her, not with hate, not with love, just a raw, exhausted truth. To sleep in another room, I said. I can't be near you tonight. her face twisted with agony. "Michael, please, don't leave me alone. Please, please." But I was already turning away, and as I reached the door, she whispered something so broken, so desperate, that even in my grief, it made me pause. "He doesn't matter. You do. He was a mistake, one I regret more than anything. But you're my home. Please don't walk away." I didn't turn around, because if I did, I might have done something neither of us could undo. I didn't sleep, not even for a second. I lay on the spare room mattress, a place I'd never slept before, and stared at the ceiling until it blurred into shapes that looked like the ruins of life. The house felt different. Too quiet, too cold, too hollow. Every breath I took sounded wrong, like I was inhaling someone else's air. Down the hallway, I could hear her muffled crying. Little choked sobs. The kind a person only makes when they are fighting the reality they created with their own hands. I didn't go to her. I couldn't, because every time I closed my eyes, I saw her in someone else's arms. Sometime near dawn, her sobbing stopped. Not because she was fine, because grief eventually exhausts you into silence. Sunlight crept into the room in broken stripes, highlighting the dust in the air. The kind of quiet morning where everything looks peaceful, despite the fact that peace has been dead for a long time. I got up slowly. My chest felt bruised. My throat burned. My eyes ached from a night without sleep. When I opened the door, I saw her. She was sitting on the hallway floor, knees pulled to her chest, arms wrapped around herself for warmth that wouldn't come. Her hair was messy, her eyes swollen, her breathing unsteady. She looked like she had aged 10 years in a single night. When she noticed me, she stood abruptly, almost stumbling. "Michael," she whispered, voice raw from crying. I said nothing. She took one small step toward me, then stopped when she saw my expression soften into nothing but exhaustion. "I couldn't sleep," she said. "I just sat here all night because I didn't want to miss you if you came out." The words should have meant something. They didn't. I walked past her toward the kitchen. She followed quietly, terrified, as if one wrong move would push me over a cliff. "Please talk to me," she whispered. "What do you want me to say?" "That you still love me," she murmured. "That there's still a chance." I opened a cabinet just to keep my hands busy. Silence filled the air. Finally, I turned around. "Lena," I said softly, "I loved you more than anything, more than myself, more than my own dreams. I built a life around you, a future with you, and you threw all of that away for someone who made you feel, what? Excited? Wanted? Seen?" She flinched, and I could forgive the mistake. I continued. I could even forgive the months. People make terrible choices when they feel lost, but the part one can't forgive. My voice cracked. Is that you weren't going to tell me. Ever. You were going to keep living two lives. Tears streamed down her face again. "I know," she whispered. "I know. And every second of that was wrong." I nodded slowly. Then I said words that tasted like ash. "It's not just a cheating. It's a betrayal of my trust. The way you let me love you without telling me I was loving a lie." Her hands trembled. "Michael, please don't say we're done. Please." "I don't know what we are," I said honestly, "but we're not what we were." She covered her face and sobbed quietly. "I'll do anything to fix it," she choked out. "Anything." I shook my head. "You can't fix something that doesn't exist anymore." She staggered back as if the words pushed her physically. The sound she made wasn't loud. It was soft, broken, the exact sound a heart makes when it realizes the consequences finally arrived. A sudden knock at the door shattered the moment. 3 sharp raps. Her head snapped up instantly, fear flooding her expression. "Is that—" She didn't finish. She didn't need to. I already knew. I walked toward the door, every step heavy. "Michael, wait. No, please, don't open." But I did, and there he was. Evan, the trainer, the man who touched my wife, the man who said I didn't deserve her. He stood on my porch with snow melting in his hair, gym bag slung over one shoulder, eyes blazing with something I couldn't read. He looked surprised to see me, but not apologetic. "Michael," he said, clearing his throat. Can we talk? Behind me, Lena whispered, horrified. Oh my God! Evan, no! I stepped outside and shut the door behind me. Hard! He stiffened. Look, he said, lifting his hands. I just came to make sure she's okay. Yesterday was emotional. She needs support. She has support, I said coldly. Just not from you. Man, I care about her, he said, his voice tightening. She told me how unhappy she's been. How alone. I'm not trying to fight you. I just want to talk to her. She doesn't want you here, I said. He scoffed. She told me she loved talking to me more than she ever talks to you. Something in my vision went white. Not rage, not jealousy, just a clean, cold clarity. Evan, I said softly, leave. No, he said. She deserves a say. Evan, leave, I repeated, stepping closer. He opened his mouth to argue, and the door behind me opened. Lena stepped out, tears still on her face, hands shaking. Evan, she whispered, what are you doing here? I came for you, he said. You don't have to stay in a marriage that's suffocating you. Her face twisted. It's not your place to say that. It is if he doesn't see your worth. She blinked, shocked, and then she said something neither of us expected. No. Stop. You don't know what love is. He stepped back, stunned. You used me, she said, crying. I used you too. We were two damaged people trying to feel alive by destroying something good. And now look what's left. His jaw clenched. You don't mean that. I do. He shook his head slowly. You're going back to him? After everything? She looked at me, not touching me, not reaching for me, just looking. No, she whispered. I'm not going back to anyone. Evan stared. What? She turned to him, finally gathering the strength she'd lost months ago. It's over, she said. Completely. Leave. He stared at her, then at me. Then he scoffed, muttered something under his breath, and walked back down the porch steps. He didn't look back. The moment he disappeared down the street, Lena collapsed onto the porch railing, covering her face. Michael, she whispered, I wasn't defending him. I wasn't choosing him. I'm choosing to take responsibility for everything. I said nothing, because something had shifted, a truth I didn't want but couldn't ignore. This wasn't a rescue story. Not hers, not mine, not ours. This was the moment things fell apart for good. She walked slowly back inside, voice fragile but steady. I'm going to pack a bag, she whispered. Not because I want to leave, but because I know I should. I felt my throat tighten. This was it. The dramatic ending neither of us wanted, but both of us needed. She wasn't running away. She was accepting the consequence she'd been avoiding for 4 months. I'll stay with my sister, she said softly, for a while, however long you need. I nodded. It was all I could manage. She walked toward the bedroom. Stopped. Turned back. Michael, she whispered. I lifted my eyes. I love you, she said, and that is the cruelest part of all of this. I didn't respond, because love wasn't enough anymore. Not after everything. Not after the lies. Not after the bruise. Not after the silence. Not after the day the truth finally ripped us open. She nodded slowly, accepting what my silence meant. Then she closed the bedroom door. I exhaled, a long, painful, irreversible breath, the kind that marks the end of something. The house wasn't quiet. It hummed, a low, unsettling vibration of movement, drawers opening, fabric shifting, hangers clattering. The kind of sounds a home makes when someone is taking themselves out of it piece by piece. I sat at the kitchen table as she packed. I didn't move, didn't speak, didn't cry. I just listened. Every muffled thud from the bedroom felt like a shovel of dirt being thrown onto a coffin. My chest felt too tight. My palms kept going numb. My heartbeat refused to find a steady rhythm. It was like my body was preparing for impact long before the wreck hit. I heard her unzip a suitcase. Then the soft sound of clothes being folded with trembling hands. Then her breath hitching. Then silence again. I stared at the wall, unable to look toward the hallway. The photographs on the shelf, the ones of our vacations, our anniversaries, the stupid selfies we used to take, were suddenly unbearable. 2 smiles, 2 people pretending they were stable, 2 faces that didn't know an earthquake was coming. Something inside me cracked. I wasn't sure if it was grief or anger or just a sound of giving up. 20 minutes passed. Maybe more. Time didn't exist in that house anymore. Finally, she came out of the bedroom. She was holding one small suitcase. Just one. It seemed impossible that years of love and laughter and shared routines could fit into something that small. Her voice was small, too. I'm ready. The words floated in the air between us like ash. I couldn't look at the suitcase. I couldn't look at her either. So I looked at the floor. Okay, I said. She swallowed hard. Do you want me to leave the keys? You live here, I said. I'm not kicking you out of your own home. But it doesn't feel like mine anymore. The sentence cut deeper than she realized. I stood up slowly, the chair leg scraping across the floor like a scream. She flinched, not because she thought I'd hurt her, but because she wasn't used to seeing me move without love behind it. We don't have to discuss logistics now, I said. Just go to your sister's. Take time. Her eyes filled instantly. You're being too kind. No, I said. Just tired. She wiped her cheeks. Can I say something before I go? I exhaled carefully. If you need to. I know I ruined us, she whispered. And I know you don't owe me anything. But I want you to know I didn't cheat because you weren't enough. You were everything I wanted. I cheated because I wasn't enough for myself. The words landed strangely, not as excuses, not as pleas, more like confession she had buried beneath months of guilt. She continued, voice breaking apart. I felt invisible, Michael. Not because you didn't love me, you loved me more than I deserved, but because I stopped feeling like someone who deserved you. I kept drowning, and instead of asking for help, I grabbed the first hand I saw, even though it was pulling me under harder. I looked at her for the first time. Really looked. She was shattering in real time, and a small, painful truth hit me. I still loved her, but love wasn't armor, and it wasn't enough to stop the bleeding. You should go, I said quietly. She nodded. Her chin trembled. Can you walk me to the door? I hesitated, then nodded once. We walked slowly together, 2 strangers wearing the ghost of who we were. When we reached the door, she froze. Her hand hovered above the doorknob like she wasn't ready to touch the future yet. Michael, she whispered. Yeah. Will you hate me someday? I swallowed. No. Will you forgive me someday? My jaw clenched. I don't know. She nodded. She didn't expect more. She stepped closer, not touching me, but close enough that I could feel her breath. You were the best thing in my life, she whispered, voice trembling. I'm sorry I was worse than yours. Tears blurred my vision, but none fell. I didn't let them. She opened the door slowly, like pulling a wound-apart thread by thread. Cold air drifted in. She stepped outside. Then she looked back one last time, an expression I'll never forget. A mix of regret, love, fear, and acceptance. I'll come back for the rest of my things when you're not home, she said softly. Okay. Goodbye, Michael. Goodbye. The door closed behind her. A quiet click, and the moment it did, I finally broke. My knees gave out. My breath collapsed. I sank to the floor, gripping my chest, trying to hold myself together while the person I built my whole world around disappeared down the driveway with a suitcase and a shattered heart. The house echoed with the sound of my breathing, but it didn't feel like my home anymore. Just 4 walls remembering what we used to be. For a long time, I didn't move. I sat there on the floor, surrounded by everything she left behind. Her mug on the table, her sweater draped over the couch, her perfume lingering faintly in the air. Memories pressed against me from all sides, suffocating and warm and unbearable. I didn't know how much time passed before I stood. Minutes. Hours. Does it matter? When I finally got up, the sun had shifted across the room, casting long shadows on the floor. I walked to the window and saw nothing, just the empty street where she'd once pulled into the driveway smiling, where we'd walked hand in hand, where life used to feel simple and safe. Now it felt like it belonged to strangers. I wiped my face, realizing I'd been crying without noticing. A hollow ache pulsed in my chest. Not anger, not hatred, just loss. Huge, suffocating loss. The kind that changes the shape of a person. I took one step back from the window, then another. Then I whispered to no one, "She's really gone." And the house answered with silence. A silence big enough to swallow a marriage whole. The silence after she left didn't feel peaceful. It felt predatory. It stalked me from room to room, waiting for the right moment to sink its teeth in. No matter where I went, the quiet followed, pressing against my ears until the house felt almost hostile. By noon, I still hadn't eaten. I had made coffee, but it went cold untouched. Every time I tried to distract myself, cleaning, pacing, sitting on the couch staring at nothing, I ended up drifting back into the same loop. Her leaving, her crying, her suitcase, her voice saying goodbye like she meant it. By late afternoon, I hadn't moved from the couch in almost an hour. I sat hunched forward, elbows on my knees, staring at my hands like they were supposed to hold something. Someone, but didn't anymore. My phone buzzed. I didn't look immediately. I didn't care. Every muscle felt heavy, like I was made of concrete. But it buzzed again. And again. 3 calls in a row. That wasn't normal. I finally lifted the phone. Lena's sister. A chill crawled up my spine. I answered instantly. "Hello." "Michael." Her voice was tense, rushed. "Are you home?" "Yes." "Why?" "It's Lena." My stomach dropped. "What happened?" I asked. She didn't show up." My pulse spiked. "What do you mean?" "She called me when she left the house. She said she'd be here in 30 minutes. But it's been nearly 4 hours. She's not answering her phone." My breath stilled. 4 hours. Did she say anything else? I asked, panic tightening every muscle. Anything unusual? There was a tremble in her voice. I thought she was just emotional from the breakup, but now I don't know. The room started spinning. I gripped the arm of the couch. "Have you called the police?" "No." I didn't want to overreact if she just went to clear her head. "But, Michael, I'm scared." I closed my eyes. 100 possibilities flashed through my mind. She ran back to him. She broke down somewhere. She's sitting in her car, crying, phone dead. She's wandering the city lost in guilt. Or something worse. "I'll find her," I said. "Please, call me the moment you know anything." "I will." The call ended, and for the first time since you walked out the door, I felt something stronger than sadness. Fear. Real fear. I grabbed my keys. The sky was gray by the time I reached the main road, heavy clouds threatening rain. Wind whipped through the trees violently, scattering leaves across the asphalt. I checked her favorite route, her usual shortcuts, the road she always took when she didn't want to think too hard. Nothing. No blue Honda. No sign of her. I tried calling. It rang twice, then went straight to voicemail. My voice cracked when I tried to leave a message. "Lena, call me, please." I drove toward the gym next. My chest tightened the moment I pulled into the nearly empty parking lot. What if she went to see him? What if he convinced her to go somewhere? My grip tightened on the steering wheel until my knuckles whitened. I hesitated, then got out of the car. The gym lights glowed faintly through the windows. It was always busy this time of day, but now it was nearly empty. I couldn't tell if that made me feel better or worse. Inside, the receptionist looked up with a polite smile. "Hey, how can I help you?" "I'm looking for someone." "My wife, Lena Turner. Has she been in today?" Her expression softened. "Let me check." She typed quickly, then shook her head. "No, she hasn't checked in since yesterday." My stomach twisted. "Is Evan here?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "The trainer?" She grimaced. "His actually not on the schedule today. He called in sick this morning." "Sick, right? Or hiding?" "Okay," I said, backing away. "Thanks." I left the gym with a new weight settling in my chest. Something wasn't right. Not with the car missing. Not with the phone off. Not with Evan suddenly sick. Cold wind cut across my face as I stepped back outside. For the first time all day, a terrifying possibility hit me. What if she didn't just leave the house? What if she disappeared? I drove the route again. Slower, more carefully, scanning every shoulder, every pull-off, every empty bus stop. My heartbeat pounded against my ribs with every passing minute. Then, on the edge of town, near an old construction site where traffic slowed to a crawl, I saw it. Her car, parked crookedly beneath a flickering streetlight, half hidden behind a cement barrier. My breath caught. I pulled over so fast the tires screeched. I ran to the driver's side window. Empty. No sign of her. Her phone was on the seat. Screen cracked. Keys still in the ignition. The world narrowed into a tunnel. "Lena!" I shouted, turning in circles. "Lena!" Nothing. Just wind. Just silence. Just the terrible realization that something was very, very wrong. I opened the car door. Her purse was on the floor. Her water bottle. A jacket she always wore when she was anxious. All still here. But she wasn't. And then, a sound. Far off. Down the dirt path behind the construction site. A faint, muffled cry carried by the wind. My whole body went cold. "Lena!" No answer. I followed the sound, heart hammering so violently it hurt. Branches cracked under my feet. The clouds shifted overhead, swallowing the remaining daylight. Another cry, clearer this time. A voice. Her voice. Weak, shaking, afraid. I moved faster. And then, through the trees, I saw her, sitting on the ground, back against a fence, knees pulled to her chest, shivering violently. "Lena!" Her head shot up. The moment she saw me, she covered her face and sobbed. I ran to her. I dropped to my knees beside her. Hey, what happened?" She shook her head like the words hate. I didn't go to my sister's," she whispered. "I know," I said quietly. "It's okay. Just tell me what happened." "I drove," she said, trembling. "I didn't know where. I just kept driving because everything hurt and I couldn't breathe, and then I felt dizzy, so I pulled over. And then She pressed a hand to her chest. "I had a panic attack. I passed out. I don't know how long. When I woke up, it was dark, and my phone was broken, and Her voice collapsed into sobs. I gently touched her arm. "Lena!" She shook her head harder. "I didn't run away. I wasn't meeting him. I wasn't doing anything. My mind spiraled. Michael. I didn't think straight." I closed my eyes. The relief hit so hard it made me dizzy. She wasn't with him. She wasn't gone. She wasn't choosing anyone else. She was just lost, broken, human. She sobbed into her hands, voice shaking uncontrollably. "I didn't want you to find me like this." I swallowed hard. I didn't want to find you gone. The wind howled around us. Leaves scattered across the empty lot like pieces of our lives blowing away. She whispered, barely audible, "Please don't leave me here alone." I exhaled shakily, and in that moment, despite the betrayal, the heartbreak, the wounds that hadn't even begun to heal, something inside me didn't choose logic or bitterness or pride. It chose compassion. Not forgiveness. Not reconciliation. Not love the way it used to be. Just compassion. I pulled off my jacket and wrapped it around her shoulders. "Come on," I whispered. "Let's get you home." And she collapsed into my arms, crying so hard it shook both of us. Not a reunion. Not a resolution. Just two broken people in the cold, holding on to the last pieces of a life that had already fallen apart. She didn't let go of my arm the entire walk back to the car. Her fingers were cold, shaking uncontrollably, gripping me like she might collapse again if she loosened even a little. Every few steps her knees buckled, and her breath hitched like she couldn't quite remember how to inhale without trembling. I kept my hand on her back, not because things were fixed, not because I had forgiven her, not because I trusted her again, but because in that moment, on that cold dirt path behind an abandoned construction site, she was a human being barely holding herself together, and I wasn't cruel enough to walk away. When we reached the car, She stared at it like it was something dangerous. "I don't want to get in," she whispered. "Why?" I feel trapped in there, like I'll panic again." I nodded slowly. "Then I'll drive," I said. "You can sit in the back if you want more space." She hesitated, hugging herself. "I'll sit in front," she murmured. "Just don't close the door too fast." I nodded again. I opened it gently, and she slid into the passenger seat with the slow, cautious movements of someone afraid of the world. Her eyes darted around the inside of the car like she was expecting her anxiety to attack her physically. I got in on my side. Only then did she whisper, "Close the door." I did, softly. The moment it latched, she flinched. Her breath quickened again, panic rising like a surge. Hey, look at me," I said, turning toward her. "Just breathe. You're safe. I'm right here." She pressed her palms to her chest. "I don't feel safe in my own head." And something inside me cracked again, not romantically, not tenderly, not in a way that erased betrayal. It cracked in the way a person breaks when they see someone they once loved drowning in their own mind. She was hurting, deeply, dangerously, and part of me hated that I still cared. I started driving slowly. She kept her eyes on the road, breathing in short, fragile bursts, like the air was fighting her for space. We didn't speak during the 15-minute drive home, not because we didn't have words, but because we had far too many. When we got back to the house, she froze in the doorway. She looked at the floor, the couch, the hallway, everything she had walked through earlier when she'd packed her suitcase. Her shoulders curled inward like the walls were closing in. "I shouldn't be here," she whispered. "It's not right." "You're not here to stay," I said softly. "Just to rest." She nodded, eyes filling again. I guided her to the couch. She sat down, pulling the jacket around her like armor. For a few minutes, neither of us said anything. Her breathing had steadied, but her eyes were distant, like she was somewhere between exhausted and fractured. Finally, she spoke. "I wasn't trying to leave forever," she whispered. "I just didn't want to watch you look at me like I'm a stranger." I leaned back in the armchair across from her. "You're not a stranger," I said. "You're just not the person I thought you were." Her face crumpled again. "I'm sorry." "I know. And I know sorry doesn't matter now." "It matters," I said quietly. "Just not enough to change things." Her hands shook so violently she tucked them beneath her thighs to hide it. After a long moment, she whispered, "Can I tell you something without you thinking it's an excuse?" I hesitated, then nodded once. She inhaled shakily. "I wasn't planning to meet him today. I wasn't trying to run. When I left this morning," her voice broke, "I felt like I had ruined my entire life in one night. I thought maybe if I got to my sister's, I'd be able to breathe. And I couldn't even drive a mile without crying. I kept thinking about what you must have felt last night, hearing everything, seeing everything. The look on your face," she covered her eyes. "I keep seeing it." My chest tightened painfully. "But that's not why I panicked," she continued, tears slipping through her fingers. "I panicked because I realized something I didn't want to admit." "What?" She lowered her hands. Her eyes were red, raw, haunted. I was never in love with him. I didn't respond. Not immediately. She swallowed hard. I was addicted to the version of myself I became with him. Someone confident. Someone wanted. Someone who wasn't drowning. It was never about him. It was about feeling like I mattered. Her voice cracked. And I hated myself for needing that from someone else. I hated myself every time I left the gym. Every time I went to bed next to you pretending everything was fine. Every morning I woke up knowing you'd done nothing to deserve the lie I was making you live. I looked down at the floor. Anger, empathy, fatigue, confusion, everything tangled together. "You still chose him," I said. "Yes," she whispered, "but not because I loved him. Because I didn't love myself enough to tell you the truth." The honesty in her voice didn't absolve her. It didn't take away the pain. But for the first time, I understood her, not as a person who betrayed me, but as a deeply broken woman who made a catastrophic choice. She wiped her face. I'm scared of myself right now, Michael, she admitted. I'm scared of what I'm capable of. I'm scared I'll never be someone who deserves to be loved again. I exhaled, a long, heavy breath. You don't get better by punishing yourself, I said quietly. You get better by facing the part of you that you've been running from. Her lip trembled. What if I don't have the strength? You do, I said. You just don't believe it. She stared at me for a long moment, like she was memorizing the version of me she'd lost. Then she whispered, I know you're not taking me back. I know I don't deserve that. But please, don't leave me alone tonight. I closed my eyes. This was the breaking point. This was the moment I had to choose between boundaries and humanity. Between the husband who loved her and the man who couldn't stay. Between anger and compassion. Between what she had done and who she was now. When I opened my eyes, I said, You can stay, but not in my bed, and not as my wife. She nodded silently. I understand. She folded her legs beneath herself on the couch and leaned against the cushions. Her breathing slowed, finally settling. Exhaustion washed over her like a wave. Within minutes, she fell asleep, curled up, small, fragile in a way I had never seen her. I watched her for a long time, not out of love, not out of longing, but out of grief for the person she used to be, and grief for the person I used to be with her. Around 3 a.m., she stayed, whispering something in her sleep. My name, a quiet, broken plea, and I realized something gut-wrenching. Her betrayal didn't break my love. It broke my ability to want it. I didn't sleep that night. I lay on the couch staring at the ceiling, replaying every detail of the past few weeks. Every strange pause in her sentences, every sudden smile at her phone, every perfectly timed excuse that I believed because I wanted to believe her. The house felt too still, like it was holding its breath with me. Around 3 a.m., I finally sat up, elbows on my knees, palms on my face. A question hung in the dark. How long had I been living with a stranger? The clock ticked loudly, accusingly. By morning, the exhaustion wrapped itself around me, heavy and numbing. I moved through the kitchen like a ghost, making coffee I barely tasted. The front door opened softly. Lena walked in, hair unbrushed, eyes red, clothes rumpled like she hadn't slept either. She froze when she saw me. I didn't speak. I didn't know where to begin. I didn't even know what version of her I'd be talking to. She set her phone and keys down slowly, as if afraid any sudden movement might break whatever fragile thing we still shared. Can we talk? She whispered. We've been talking, I said. My voice came out rough. And the things I hear keep changing. She swallowed hard. I know, and I'm sorry. I wasn't being honest with you. I was scared. Of what? I stood up, facing her fully. Of losing me, or of losing him? Her breath hitched, and she looked away. That tiny movement told me everything. You want the truth, she said softly, but the truth will destroy you. It already has, I said. Just say it. She closed her eyes. When you confronted me, that wasn't the end. Her voice shook. It wasn't even the beginning. You were too late. My chest tightened painfully. Meaning? She finally looked at me. We didn't just talk. We didn't just text. It wasn't just emotional or accidental or confused. Silence swallowed the room. She didn't breathe. I didn't breathe. She kept speaking, slow, terrified, trembling. It happened more than once. The words fell like bricks. All those gym nights. I whispered. The late classes, the extra stretching, the showers. Her shoulders sagged. I tried to stop it, she whispered. But every time I tried, I found myself going back. My voice cracked without warning. Why? Her face twisted in guilt. Because he made me feel like I mattered, she whispered. And I needed that. I didn't know how much until it was too late. The room blurred. For a moment I thought I might pass out. So I didn't matter, I said quietly. That's not what I meant. But it's what happened. She stepped forward, tears welling. Please don't make me explain it like that. It wasn't about choosing him over you. It was about feeling broken and lost, and then why didn't you come to me? It came out raw. Why did you let someone else fix what I didn't even know was broken? She covered her mouth, crying silently. I stared at her, really stared. At the woman I'd built a life with. At the person who used to be my safest place. And something inside me snapped, but not in anger, in clarity. I finally asked the question I'd been avoiding since the beginning. Do you love him? Her eyes went wide, terrified, torn, exposed. She didn't answer. And the silence, God, the silence told me more than any confession ever could. I let out a slow, shaking breath. Okay, I whispered. Her face crumpled. No, don't say okay. It's not okay. I don't know what I feel. I just know that losing you would destroy me. You already lost me, I said. You just didn't notice when it happened. She sobbed harder, stepping closer. Please, don't say that. Please don't give up on us. I'm not giving up, I whispered. I'm letting go. Her hands dropped to her sides like she'd been shot. You don't mean that. But I did. For the first time, I meant every word coming out of my mouth. I walked to the window, staring out at the gray morning. The world looked strangely calm, like it didn't care a home was falling apart inside it. Behind me, Lena's voice broke again. If I leave now, if I pack and walk out that door, is that it? Is there no chance? I didn't turn around. Lena, I said quietly, there's a point where the damage stops being something you can fix and becomes something you live with. She sank to her knees, shaking, crying into her hands. I didn't move, didn't touch her, didn't comfort her, because everything that kept us together had been replaced by everything that broke us. The truth wasn't a knife. It was a slow, deep tearing that left nothing to stitch back together. Behind me, she whispered, I never thought I'd lose you. And I whispered back, without looking, you didn't lose me tonight. You lost me the night you chose him. That was the moment the last thread snapped. The moment the ending became real. The moment Part 10 began waking in the shadows. The drive home felt like moving through the aftermath of an explosion. Everything looked the same. The street lights, the houses, the quiet neighborhood. But nothing was the same. I sat in the silent car for a few seconds before stepping out, letting the engine tick as it cooled, the sound weirdly loud in the stillness. My hand hesitated on the front door, not because I feared Lena, because I feared myself. What I might say, what I might finally accept, what I might finally walk away from. Inside, the house smelled faintly of her lavender candle, a scent that used to calm me. Now it pressed against my chest like a memory-turned weapon. She was sitting on the couch, hands clasped, eyes swollen from crying. Where did you go? She whispered. Out, I said, hanging up my jacket. To think. Her voice cracked. Did you talk to Evan? Yes. The word landed like a hammer. Her breath stuttered. What did he say? That you lied. I didn't raise my voice. The quietness made her flinch harder. That you reached out first. That this wasn't a mistake or confusion or whatever you've been calling it. That it wasn't a weak moment. It was something you chose. She looked like she might collapse into herself. Please, she whispered. Please don't do this. I know what I did. I know I destroyed something good. But don't end this like I'm a monster. I never said you were a monster, I answered softly. Just not the person I married. Her face broke open in pain. I walked past her, into the hallway. She stood up quickly, following. Wait, can we talk? Please? Don't just. She put her hand on my arm. Don't shut me out. I pulled away gently but decisively. It was the first time I'd done that, and she felt the meaning instantly. Don't, she whispered, voice trembling. Please, don't be done. Not like this. I toned. Do you want to know the truth, Lena? My voice shook, but I didn't stop. I spent the whole night wanting to believe you, wanting to find a reason to forgive you, wanting to hear something, anything, that made this make sense. I swallowed hard. But nothing you say can undo that feeling I had tonight. What feeling? The moment I realize I don't recognize the woman standing in front of me. She covered her mouth with a shaking hand. A sob escaped her, small, broken, defeated. "You're my husband," she whispered. I said quietly. "And I loved you more than you ever understood. But you didn't protect us. You didn't protect what we had." She staggered back, blinking like she couldn't comprehend what she was hearing. "Are you leaving?" "No," I said. "You are." It was the calmest sentence I had spoken in weeks, and the final one that mattered. Her knees nearly buckled. What? "You already packed your things once," I said. "Now you'll finish." "Please." "I'll change. I'll fix this. It's not about fixing the marriage anymore," I said. "It's about fixing myself." She stared at me, lips trembling. I was begging for a version of me that didn't exist anymore. I took a slow breath. "I'm not choosing anger," I said softly. "I'm choosing peace." The words destroyed her. She covered her face and cried harder, loud, heartbroken sounds that scraped at my ribs. Once, I would have held her. Tonight, I couldn't. I stepped aside and nodded toward the bedroom. "Pack what you need," I said. "I'll stay in the living room." She looked at me like she was watching the end of her world. "Is this really it?" she whispered. I didn't answer, because she already knew. She walked down the hallway like a ghost, her sobs softening with distance. I sat on the couch, elbows on my knees, staring at a knot in the hardwood floor while the sound of zippers and drawers filled the house. After 20 minutes, she appeared at the doorway with a duffel bag. Her face was red. Her hair was a mess. She looked small, smaller than I ever remembered. "Can I?" She swallowed. "Can I hug you? One last time." A part of me wanted to say yes. A part of me wanted to say no. But the truth? The truth was even heavier. "I can't," I whispered. Her face twisted with grief. She nodded slowly, like her heart was too tired to argue anymore. She opened the front door. Cold air rushed in. She hesitated. "I never meant to fall out of love with you," she said quietly. "I never meant to lose you." "You didn't fall out of love," I replied. "You just forgot to protect it." She closed her eyes, letting the final blow sink in. Then she stepped out. The door closed softly behind her. A whisper, not a slam. And somehow, that hurt worse. The house felt impossibly empty. Too big. Too quiet. I stood there for a long time, letting the silence settle into my bones. Then, for the first time since the nightmare began, I breathed, a full, unbroken breath. Because heartbreak is not the end. Sometimes, it's the beginning of the person you were supposed to become. In the quiet, I whispered the words I wasn't brave enough to say while she was still here. "Goodbye, Lena." And for the first time in months, it felt like the truth.